So today we review Magia by Magically Ordinary. And this story centers around these six main characters with I think a special focus on the red-haired girl called Abby. Now they all used to be normal ordinary teenagers, but they stumble across these magical gemstones and then they develop these superpowers and they have new superhero outfits and then they form a team and then they fight villains. And throughout the story, we get a peek into their personal lives, their family lives, and the conflicts that they might have with each other. But there's also a lot more going on with like alternate dimensions, alternate timelines, supernatural elements. Like there's a lot going on, and yeah, it's really cool. So you mentioned that you have no art experience aside from this story that you've been doing. And let me just tell you, you should be so proud of yourself, really. What you've accomplished is absolutely phenomenal because so many people, normal people, don't realize how difficult it is that every time a character opens her mouth, you got to draw them again. And the amount of repetitive, hard work that goes into making a comic like this is absolutely really normal people don't get it, but you do. And you have been showing up consistently, you have been persevering. And honestly, that's amazing. That's so amazing. And you have, I think, what, 27 chapters out now? And you've improved so much. Everything, in every aspect, you've improved so much. And yeah, that's totally great. And you asked especially about the characters. And I think characters are great. That's the characters I think are the very strong point of the story. Each of them have, very unique traits, unique personalities, and I especially like the way that they talk. The dialogues that you've been writing, I think they are a super strong point of the story because all of your conversations they just feel so natural and engaging and yeah, I think that they're really good. And you got that, yeah, just I have, yeah, great vibes for the conversations and everything and the way they interact as well. It feels so lifelike and entertaining and I really like it. I also really like that how you showed, glimpses about their into their personal lives, how they interact with their families, how, a bunch of them have pretty rough lives. And yeah, I think that was great. And then you had the little info sheets and little extra snippets at the end of every chapter. I think that was so nice. I think it also builds like this. It really worked for me. I think it was really nice. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that you've been doing really, really well. That being said, there's always room for improvement. And specifically for you, here are a few ways that I think you could really level up your webtoon. Number one, which is if there's only one thing, only one takeaway from this entire video, it's the speech bubbles. And so the vast majority of webtoon viewers, they use mobile phones. And it's a really good practice to kind of after you finish drawing and adding text to the panels and everything, just take a second to open it on your phone and check if the text is legible on the phone because I know my eyes are not how they used to be when I was younger, but a bunch of times I think I really, really needed the text to be bigger, a lot bigger. I think for you in particular, it would be a good. I don't know about the size of the letters. It depends on the file size or the pixel size of the image that you're working with. But for you here, as a general guideline, it would be so nice to have the text about the same size as the eyes of the characters. So I took a look at the whole story from beginning to end. And generally speaking, the flow is good, everything, the scenes are good, the pacing's good. However, there were, especially in the beginning, when you just started out, there were a few chapters that were, personally for me, I found them a bit hard to follow and hard to kind of understand what was going on. You can see here the list. And maybe sometimes it was the text issues that I mentioned earlier. Sometimes it was kind of a lot of visual context was missing, and I noticed that most of these are with fight scenes, because fight scenes are especially challenging. Even in in comics generally, fight scenes can be very challenging to understand. And I would like to do kind of a detailed breakdown of chapter 2, especially because I think it would benefit you a lot to have kind of like an outside perspective on chapter 2. To I know that you in your head have a lot of context, a lot of, you know you already know everybody. You know your own characters in your head, and you know the villains, and you know what's going on. But for someone who has no idea what's going on, chapter 2 is especially important because this is the first chapter that we see the team fighting the villains. We introduce that we see them in action for the first time, and we see the villains for the first time. So that's a very significant chapter in terms of your world building and the conflict of the entire story and everything. So I'm going to give a brutally honest breakdown of every panel of chapter 2, if you're okay with that. Proceed with caution, okay? I did not hold back. So here goes. We start off with seeing a bunch of, sorry, I cut off a bit of it, but we start off with seeing a bunch of people outside on a meadow or a field. That's good. And then, so this is the school field or school outdoors area, right? And these are their schoolmates, and they're talking. But yeah, so the conversation goes as follows. What a fun way to start term 3. There is a villain near the school. Have you seen Abby? Okay. There is a villain near the school. I think that for me that was like, that's lovely. How does she know what's going on? I think it would have been so nice to maybe see her. I don't know, she's on her phone, or they're looking at the news, or they hear from someone somehow to give the context of like a bit more info, a bit more context here would be great. Have you seen Abby? Okay. Okay, the next panel is great. I loved it. It was a very long thing, and you scroll down and you see the sky, 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 and then a rooftop, and then there's Abby with a very cool pose. I think this is great. And we see the superhero outfit, which looks very nice. But then we look at this dude. Then we see this guy from the back, and at that point I got very confused because if you see here, if you guys, the audience, if you see here, their outfits are the same. So they look, it's just, so this guy looks exactly the same as the heroes. However, at this point, we've only seen Abby in her outfit. And so I didn't know that this was a new character. I didn't know that this was a villain. I thought, oh, this is someone from the team because they have a matching uniform. And because he's in a mask as well, I was thinking, okay, well, what? This is one of the boys from the team, but who? And I didn't really know. And at this point, I was quite confused. And also, because so you see how you did it very well. You see like the whole building and that they're on top, and then you zoom in onto the top, and then the zoom in on the faces they're talking. That's great. I think that's really great, but that's what I need a bit more of, especially because they're fighting, so we got to know kind of who is where, how far they are from each other. So if you take a look at these, there's a like this picture of the soccer field. There's a bit of the bit of background. There's a You can see how where the characters are, and also the crossing. So kind of I really missed those shots where we can see the bigger picture of what's going on, and who is where, how are they attacking each other, how far away are they from the school, whatever, from especially from each other, and how their powers work. So, kind of, I would really love to see these, and I think that would clear up a lot of confusion. Okay, so telephone rings. This is really cool. Like, I like how you frame your shots. I like, very nice poses, very nice facial expressions, especially, and it's just giving such a cool, really snarky snappy superhero vibe. It's really good, you know? And it's very funny as well, very humorous. Yeah. Okay, so yeah. Yeah, over here. I think right now if you looking back, you've already come so far. I think most of this is obvious to you as well, but I would really like some more art with this because yeah, just we need to see who's speaking because a bunch of times I was completely lost. And I didn't really understand the thing with the minions. So, yeah, because I don't see them. Okay, so the villain goes on to do the explosion. Abby does the shield. Very cool pose. Yeah. Okay, nice snarky conversation. Okay, and we learn that the villain got away. I think it's the villain got away, right? The kids got away. I didn't really understand this part. So who's the kids? Who's saying this? Okay, and then they decide to go back, and then we see the principal or the teacher over here, and yeah, worrying about the missing kids. Okay, yeah, so great. Now here are some hopefully useful tools that you could use for the things that we talked about. And this is a wild guess, but if in case you're using Krita for the art, I use Krita a lot myself, and I love it for all the art stuff. But for the text thing, it's really difficult. At least for me, I found it a bit clunky when it came to adding in the text and the speech bubbles and everything. And if you're looking for something to make that a bit easier to move them around and scale them and whatever, I recommend Canva. You just need to make an account. It's free. It's free. Just register with your email, and then you can. It's much easier to do all kinds of designy things with the text, and it's easy to transfer it with your between your phone and your. So once you upload one episode, you can from your computer you can open the same thing, same web page on your phone, and you can really easily check if the text size is good or not. And then for character references, in case you need some references for placing multiple characters in a space or like a stage setting, I have two recommendations. I haven't really tried them in some time, but I think I used to use this one, Magic Poser. I used to use it a lot. Um, you see, so you can just so the characters can take on different poses, and you can kind of manage their angles and their hand movements and everything, and then kind of use that as a reference. And this one is the same thing but different. In case you don't like the first one, it's you can have a lot of characters in this little round circle space thing, and you can also color them a different color. Like this one is like kind of green. You can change their colors and change, I think, their poses too. I'm not sure about that, but you can definitely change their locations, and then you can set the angle of the shot however you would like. So maybe these might be useful for you, hopefully. Finally, let me just tell you that you have such an awesome story with, dynamic, lifelike characters and natural dialogues. And it's really entertaining. And you have a great, great thing going with, the different dimensions and the mystery elements and, the supernatural. I'm not going to spoil it to the audience, but you have great stuff going on. And it's overall, congratulations for this amazing story. And also, can I just mention that you have such an amazing sense for troubleshooting and improving as you go, because a bunch of stuff that I wanted to mention you already solved by the later chapters. For example, I wanted to mention in the beginning Chip and Sam, they looked a bit too similar for me. You already solved that. And then I thought, well, maybe they could use some more unique design elements. You already solved that. Honestly, you're doing great and you're improving with every chapter, and you've been creating something that's that's a very amazing story that you I'm sure that you'll be proud of it when you look back. And thank you so much for submitting your story. I hope that this was helpful. And anybody else, if you're watching and if you'd like me to review your story, also just leave a comment below. And yeah, hopefully this was helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.